Hi guys, old man Chris back, getting a little bit more done in the shop. I decided to put a block underneath my fixture plate, and the block was pretty rough, piece of bar, so it's been squared up on all sides and precision drilled, fitted to the plate, and hasn't worked out too bad. Although I tried to keep everything square and well faced, I think there might be a slight error in the Y direction. I'm not quite sure yet, I've got to check it more, but I will probably find that if I need any correction at all, it'll be perhaps a 1/1000 piece of shim or something like that to get it to tram properly. And I have a quick look, well, I show you a quick look at the Hobart welder I got not long ago, which was donated, and in fact thanks go to Ben Still, who is the original person who got it from eBay, but he couldn't actually pick it up, and my friend Terry picked it up because it was offered to me, plus an old compressor, which is another pretty major job in the pipeline one day. So anyway, that's basically what the video is about. I didn't verbalize last time, but thank you for my subscribers yet again. We topped the 9,000, which is pretty remarkable. It's much appreciated. And update on t-shirts, I nearly forgot. I didn't reckon I'd probably move more than about 20. Well, in fact, at the moment it's I think 25, and it's running for another, what, 3 days, I think. Anyway, that's still pretty good. I'm very pleased about it. I didn't expect a massive uptake at all. Some people are probably tired of t-shirt campaigns, but it was one of those things. I thought I'd give it a try. And that's about it. I probably won't bother to put a tail end on this video. So I'll just say thank you to all for watching, and hope to get back before too long, reminding you that first 2 weeks of October I'm possibly a bit off the radar when my buddy comes to visit. But anyway, hope to maybe get a look at this Hobart MiG at some point, at least make a start, try and assess it electrically. Alright, bye for now. Got to say a thank you to my viewer friend Glenn Felpel, and he sent me some steel banding. Ages ago I thought I had some but couldn't find it, and he sent me some lengths which has allowed me to make up a spring piece for my parallel, keeping them in place. Simple but brilliant. Thank you very much, Glenn. Anyway, what I'm going to do, which may take several steps, the heat's coming back on this fixture plate. I want to fit a block just to allow for using in the vise, and I've got to square this up, get this nicely finished, and then make a couple of holes for some cap screws. May not be used all the time, but I think it might be useful. I've just got to tidy up the ends first, which is non-critical, and then we'll do a four-sided setup to get a decent square piece out of it. Well, square, you know what I mean. 90 degrees each way. This end is actually a bit rough compared to the sawn end when I cut it to length. So, and this is one of the very few larger milling cutters I've got. Very short on some of the bigger sizes, but this should do good for the aluminum. It's a 2 flute. I'm not sure whether I'm going to use it for the sides of the block. I'll have to see. That's fairly reasonable. Fairly reasonable. This is just a 10th cut, and I'll do the other end probably fairly similar. Take a nominal 10 off this end. Shouldn't need much, it's fairly clean cut actually. I think I actually only put in 5, but that's not bad, and the end finish is really not terribly important here. Main thing is to get this piece nicely squared up. Well, this is going to be a bit of an experiment actually. I could have used a small fly cutter, but I've got this triple indexed cutter here, and I'm not sure whether it'll give much of a finish on the aluminum. Not that finish is paramount, the main thing is to get this thing true, but the bar here is ancient. I've had it for ages, and as you know, I don't generally have much choice of material. It's 1/4 by 5/8, and it's actually got some pop marks in it. It must have been initially set up to do something else, but also the one thing it has is a warp. Quite a significant warp. It happens to be the thickest stuff I've got, which is why I'm using it. But this here, that's a feeler gauge. I've got this set up on the rear jaw, got a piece of aluminum filler rod here, because I haven't got a screwy ball yet. I must get one, Chuck, sometime. So I'm going to take off what I can on this side, and then hopefully it'll get a bit easier as we go. I don't want to take too much off, I don't really know yet. I might just dial in 5 and see what happens, just to get some idea. That's about 8. See what happens. Well, you can see there I was running out of cut. This piece is definitely not dimensionally very good. I'm right down on the parallels here, and we're on that parallel, and this one's jacked up. But actually it's giving a very nice finish. Quite happy with that. You may only just be able to see it. Yeah, you can probably see a little bit of it. So I'm going to take another pass or two and see how we go. Well, that's one more pass at about 5. You can see the difference. I say that's a very, very acceptable finish. Quite happy with that. It's a nice cutter. But I think I'll have to probably put on about 10. Once I can get rid of this end, we can go right the way through, and that will give me my first decent face. Now I must vacuum up some mess. That was a hell of a lot to have to take off. Anyway, as I say, give me my first decent side. Oh, I meant to mention I'm guessing actually, it was probably a feed of about 2.5 to 3 inches a minute, something like that. Cutting fairly freely anyway. It was only about a 12th thou cut at this end. Well, it's a hassle changing cutters, but I don't want to use an 1.5-inch cutter on this face. This is 5/8. This is one of the few 3/4 I've got. As I say, I'm very short on some of the bigger stuff. It's a 2-flute, but it's fairly new, I think. So I'm going to try that, and I'll try a pass of, I think probably just, oh, that's slightly more. That's only 5 thou. May not be enough, but I'll do it as a test pass. Well, that was useful. Looks as though we've got a complete cut there. A couple more dimples. As I say, it was obviously set up for some other use. I made rather fast feed there, so it's a bit of a coarse finish. Never mind. I got to use what I got. So we'll flip over and do side 3, change tooling again. So it's tedious doing that, but I think that 1.5-inch cutter would be a bit too thumpy on there. Although it's good and solid, steady. I'll stick with that anyway. We're not after a super duper finish. I've just taken a very light pass to finish this side off, and I ran at a higher speed because these carbide cutters, you can get more revolutions on it, which I didn't bother with the other side, but it was running at about 800 or 900. Certainly doesn't feel bad for a finish. So I'm going to take that out, deburr all the way round, put it back in for the 4th side and see what we get. I'm going to try and just take about 3 thou off here. I've got it tapped down pretty good. Oh, gone out of frame there, haven't we? Oh dear. Didn't realise that. Anyway, that may be enough to show you. I mean, the finish is pretty good, or adequate. But being a 2-flute and not feeding all that slow, of course, there's a typical 2-flute pattern, but we'll see what we've got now. Let's see how it's come out. Taken quite a bit off from the 5/8, of course. 575, 5/8, 5/84, 5/85. .584. I'm happy with that dimension. I've got it deburred, I think, adequately. Let's just see what we got this way. 1.5 1.23 235 that looks like. I haven't bothered with a mic yet. 235. Well, at the worst it's accurate to half a thou. If I put the mic on I might get a closer reading, but anyway, quite pleased with that. It certainly needed some work on it. Still got a couple of dimples here and there. I don't know what on earth I was going to use it for originally. So the next step when I get to it is to put the piece back in, probably on the other parallels, and then I've got to drill holes. This time, unlike my toe clamps, I will use an edge finder and get exactly on center, and then we're going to have 2 holes, I think. Let me check. I've got to check for sure. I've made this 5-inch, although I've only got a 4-inch vice jaw. So in fact will be, yeah, the hole spacing's 1 and 1/4, so we're going to go 3 1/4. 3 1/4 even on centre line, counter bore. That feels alright. So we're going to go on the underside. That's alright, we're free of burrs on there. Miracle. Right, I'll see when I get back to the little bit of drilling. Trying to avoid too much glare on here. It's difficult with shiny surfaces. Just before I finish this session, just check that's well tapped down. I've got a reading this side which I used for 0, and I'm just doing a check on this side. .394. That agrees with the last check. One more time. Oh, too quick. Yep, that's good. Alright, so at least it's we're set up, ready for some drilling whenever I get round to it. So we shall actually, there's still, oh wait a minute, which put that light off. I could almost do with the damn room lighting, couldn't I? Oh, I've still got the centre one. The camera sort of adjusts. Oh well. Anyway, that's it. I'll see you in a few seconds. We're doing some thinking on this. I've used the edge finder all round, trying to avoid the crazy bad centre line on my toe clamps. So we've used edge finder all the way round and did both ends here, which confirmed that we were nice and parallel. So I now want holes, clearance holes for 3/8 here and here, which is 2 times 1 1/4. So having got myself set up, I finished up on zeroed myself on the exact center. So I'm actually going 1.875 this way, and then we'll go 1.875 that way. I was going to counterbore for a 3/8 cap screw, and I thought no. Two reasons really. One is this bolt would be too long, I'd need to trim it. But secondly, I don't want the cap screw tightening up inside the counterbore against aluminum. And also the underside, as it will be, doesn't need any clearance if it's in the vise. So I'm just going to drill for the 3/8 and have a washer. That means I can do it up pretty tight into the fixture plate. I think that'll give me about 3/8, maybe not quite, but I've got some other bolts and I can shorten, so that's the way I'm going to go. So first of all, just get a start for these two. Now I've got to move across accurately here. I think I'm going to go through in two sizes and keep the 3/8 fairly tight to size. I think I'll use a 1/4 inch pilot first. Right, move along, do the other end. I'll switch to the 3/8 now. One more to go. Right, well that's about it. Just got to put a little bit of chamfer on those holes and then we'll try it on the fixture plate and see if it fits. You know what, before I take this out of the vise, I may not need them, but I'm going to put in 2 more holes. These are the primary, but I think I'll make 2 more holes, and if they're not used it doesn't matter. But at the moment I'm back on centre, so I've only got to go 5/8 each side, so I think I'll do that. Alright, last extra hole, 3/8. As I say, I may not need these holes, but seeing as I'm after good rigidity as well as parallelism and etc., I think it's worth doing. Alright, I'll take that out, put some chamfers in and then see where we go from there. Well, there it is. Bit ugly with these sticking out, but to be honest, that's not going to matter. As I say, I didn't want to counterbore and then be torquing up these cap screws against aluminum. Anyway, they line up perfectly. You probably can't see the depth here needs another 1/8 or so to pick up some more thread, so I'll probably modify some other bolts. But that can now go in. I'll have to run an indicator over here and check it for truth. But bear in mind, this is only generally for very small jobs. I haven't got a lot of space left to the chuck. I'm okay for stub drills, and if I've got collet and milling cutter, no problem. So I think it'll make for a quick setup. I hope so anyway. And if I want to mount this to the table, I can just take this off. Matter of a few seconds. Whether the extra holes are needed, I don't know. Probably not. So that's just there in case. Alright, so I might just set up an indicator actually and see how it does look. Well, I'm only sampling over a short distance at the moment. It's not quite holding zero there, but at the moment there's probably about half a thou there. Seems pretty reasonable so far. A little bit of discrepancy that way, but I don't think it's very much, and probably what I'll do when I use it, if I need to, I'll add just a little bit of shim stock. Otherwise, I think fairly convenient for quick jobs. One of the next jobs here, this is the old Hobart, and it will need a new torch and lead and everything. It looks fairly beat up, but I've got to check it electrically. You can't really see much of it down there. Anyway, we'll do an electrical check. Oh, you can probably see. There's the torch. Pretty well shot. So maybe in the near future try and do some checks on that and see if it's viable.